I'm glad you asked for a completely original YouTube-style take. Here's a fresh, commentary-driven script that reimagines the topic from the ground up, with heavy personal analysis and a natural, speaking cadence. What you're about to see is not a recap. It's me thinking aloud about a surprising name on a free agent radar, and what that says about the 49ers, the guard spot in the NFL, and how companies, teams, measure risk when they chase a comeback story. Let's dive in. I'll start with a bold hook. What if an undrafted guard who started every game for a middling team 2 years ago is suddenly framed as a high-upside, low-risk reclamation project for a Super Bowl contender? That tension alone tells you something bigger. How we evaluate line play is shifting, and it's less about pedigree and more about a specific skill set that teams crave: resilience, reliability, and the ability to execute in a high-variance role. Here's the true line I want you to walk away with: the NFL is secretly a second-chance league for linemen who can demonstrate steady, floor-like execution over 1,000 snaps. Robert Jones isn't a flashy signing. He's a test of whether a player who's defied draft status can adapt, recover, and deliver in a system that prizes communication, tempo, and staying healthy enough to stay on the field. First major idea: the core capability that keeps getting valued in the trenches is reliability under pressure. Personally, I think consistency is more valuable than a hot streak. Jones started every game in 2024 for the Dolphins, a stat line that matters because it signals he can handle rhythm, reps, and a full season's workload. What makes this really interesting is how that reliability translates into a team's confidence to run more complex schemes. If a guard can be trusted to execute, you can protect the QB's timing, you can run outside zone with fewer hiccups, and you can stow away the mental overhead of constantly adjusting protections. From my perspective, that's the quiet trait you're betting on when you sign someone who's been there, done that, and proved it again under a different umbrella. Second idea: the injury angle isn't just doom and gloom. A broken neck is one of those doomsday phrases in football lore, yet Jones was back from that near-mortal setback within a year. What many people don't realize is that the NFL has learned to quantify risk in better, more granular ways: medical data, recovery timelines, and rehab protocols that can turn a near-tragic pause into a credible return. If you take a step back and think about it, teams aren't signing players despite injuries. They're signing people who've shown they can re-enter the league's tempo after a setback. That matters because it reframes the guard position as a seat you can reoccupy with confidence after a setback rather than a fragile role doomed by the last health scare. Third idea: the numbers tell a story that doesn't shout loudly enough. A 2.9% blown block rate in 2024 isn't a flashy stat, but is a proxy for technique, footwork, and hand placement under duress. What this really suggests is that Jones isn't just a body. He's a tool with a specific efficiency profile. If a team like the 49ers believes they can optimize a few micro skills, angle of approach, attack timing, punch to clamp, this is where upgrading the guard room becomes less about chasing a star and more about squeezing incremental value from a controlled, repeatable process. A detail I find fascinating is how minor mechanical improvements compound over thousands of reps and a full season. Fourth idea: why the 49ers? They're famous for strong lines, sharp coaching, and a culture of maximizing every inch of roster value. In my opinion, bringing in a player with Jones's track record is a signal. They're not chasing a splash move, they're chasing a low-variance upgrade with a high ceiling if everything lines up. One thing that immediately stands out is the strategic fit. Jones gives them a veteran, plug-and-play option who can step in with minimal massive overhaul to their blocking schemes. What this really highlights is a broader trend. Teams are embracing reclamation projects as a hedge against the volatility of free agency, especially at guard where the drop-off from a single trade can cascade across an entire rushing attack. Fifth idea: the broader implications for the league's talent ecosystem. If undrafted players who started 30 games in a season can command interest from a contender 2 years later, that hints at a deeper shift. Talent evaluation is increasingly about the why behind a player's success, not just the what. It means scouts and coaches may value health narratives, adaptability, and the capacity to learn complex protections over raw athletic tests alone. From my vantage point, this could lead to more late-round success stories and a more merit-based re-entry path for players who were overlooked at the draft table. Deeper insight: this isn't just about one guard, it's about how elite teams build resilience into their rosters. The guard position is a microcosm of offensive line strategy. You want a unit that can absorb a variety of looks, maintain cohesion, and weather the inevitable injuries across the season. If Jones can show his regained form and chemistry, he becomes a proxy for the 49ers' approach to risk: lower upside, higher certainty. What this suggests is that the NFL's free agency market may start rewarding players who demonstrate a clean injury history and a proven ability to return to form after disruption more than raw athletic potential alone. If that trend holds, we could see more veterans and near misses getting second acts in high-stakes environments. Closing thought: the takeaway isn't about whether Jones makes the roster. It's about what his case study reveals about how teams value reliability, medical resilience, and process over pure hype in the current market. The bigger question I want you to chew on is this: in a game that venerates splash plays, are we increasingly underrating the quiet, repeatable excellence that actually wins championships? If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a comment with your take on the guard market. Do you think the league should double down on reclamation projects like Jones, or chase the next high-ceiling prospect regardless of injury history? I'm curious to hear what you think, and as always, I'll be reading your takes and diving back in with a follow-up analysis if you want the deeper version of this conversation.